Good morning, everybody. My name's Casper Kaiser. I'm the operations manager at the Oster facility in McMinnville, Tennessee. My background is actually in scissors. At the age of 16, I started to work for the Arias Eichert Corporation and was trained almost like an apprenticeship from the old school German way of actually doing things by Ari Eichert and Uwe Eichert. So ever since then, I have been in the scissor business, learning to hone my skills as a scissor sharpener and a scissor crafter, and the way we manufacture scissors, but also how we recondition scissors. So that is not my most proud accomplishment. I would just like to state for the record that I am the 2011 laser tag champion. Last year we had a hoot. We had a great time playing laser tag. So this is what, if I never looked through the parallel bar and I had perfect alignment on my blade, this is what it's going to look like. When I go to hone that scissor, it's going to look beautiful. I don't even need a parallel bar. I can just hone it and go, I did a good job. What happens if I hone it and I see this? It doesn't look anything like that, does it? What does this tell you? What does this mean? Anybody know?
Does it have a perfect bow?
Very good. It's got too much bow. Basically, I've got too much curvature in there. Why? Because I'm grinding hard at the tip, I'm grinding hard in the back, and there's a big old bow or a big old light in between here that this doesn't touch the hone whatsoever.
Could it also be they're not putting enough pressure though at?
That is possible.
I mean, if they're doing it incorrectly.
Yeah, but normally this extreme would typically be something that means I've got too much bow. If you don't use correct pressure, or you say you put all your pressure in the back and all your pressure at the tip, you can get some inconsistency. So let me clarify, because that's a great point. Using correct honing techniques, if you get this, typically you have too much bow. What about this one? See what's happening here?
Too little. Too much bow with the tip.
Yes. There's too much bow, and it's probably behind the tip. Because what happens is you get bow, and where's it going to hit? It's going to hit on the place where it comes down, not where there's too much bow. So we call these different things. We have different names for these. This is called a hole. When you have too much bow, it looks like a hole. It's very easy. You put this on a parallel bar, you look through, and you see a big old gap of light. It's called a hole. Normally, if that hole happens out at the end of the scissor, we call it a hook. It's a hooked in tip. Very easy. And you can have both. You can have a hook and a hole. And this is what it would look like. So you got too much bow, not enough bow. Too much bow, not enough bow. Does that make sense? Looking like this. Roller coaster. When do we bend? We bend when a scissor's out of alignment. This is a perfect example that I love to use. Remember what I was talking about between the good sharpener and the great sharpener. A person that just gets into sharpening doesn't fully understand how scissors works and how they come together and what makes them cut and the different properties. Takes a pair of scissors and sharpens them and just puts a beautiful edge on them. A great job. Puts the scissors together and goes to test them, and they don't cut. How many of you have been there before? Fun, isn't it? The person goes, well, obviously I did something wrong. Doesn't understand the principles of scissors. What does this person do? Sharpens them again. But this time, pays closer attention and really puts a good edge on there. Super sharp. Puts them together and they don't cut. What does this person do? Panic. And sharpens them again. You know, does everybody know what the definition of insanity is?
Doing the same thing every time and getting the same result.
Expecting a different result. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That is the definition of insanity. So, what is this person missing?
This class.
That's right. You are awesome. They're missing the properties of what makes a scissor cut. You can have the sharpest edges in the world. If they're not coming together properly, they don't mean anything. They have to come together properly in order to cut. You have to have a shearing action. Otherwise, you just got two knives. There's some real telltale signs about how a scissor is out of alignment, which is it's got a crunchy or a rough feel. We've probably all felt that, where it feels like there's nothing, and then crunch. Normally what that is you got a lot of bow. And then right at the end or the tips of the scissor, it feels like you just hit a brick wall. Boom. Out of alignment. And a parallel bar, one of these will tell you that. But just opening and closing it'll tell you, uh-oh, I'm out of alignment.
What would you do when you had extreme curve scissors?
No, we'll get there. That's a great question. Curve scissors actually work the same way. We just can't use the same tools to test them. Poor cutting performance after the blades have been sharpened. So we sharpen them. We know we put a good edge on them. And they're still not cutting the way we want them to cut. That's a telltale sign of when a scissor is out of alignment. Not meeting the specification to the parallel bar. In other words, it doesn't look right when I put it on this.
How do you test the cut?
It depends on what application you're using. My suggestion, and there's a whole lot of different methods to test cut out there. My suggestion is 1-ply wet tissue.
But not for buffalo.
You don't need to do that on a typical non-honed scissor. You can use imitation silk, which is polyester cotton. You can use synthetic hair, which works very, very well. Synthetic hair actually works great because it'll also give you a test that a lot of the other tests won't, and that's what we call a push test. So as I close the scissor, what I don't want to see is the hair running away. I want to see the hair falling off, not running away. Now, normally, you're never going to prevent all push. Back towards the pivot of the scissor, you have some forces that are actually forcing that away. But once you get past about a quarter of the blade, you should have none. If you sharpen that properly, the hair should fall off instead of run away. So I highly recommend synthetic hair, especially on a non-honed traditional type scissor. But for a honed scissor, 1-ply wet tissue works great. It sees if there's any burrs left on there from your sharpening. It'll also tell you if your scissor's out of alignment. So there's a whole lot of methods out there, but those are the ones I recommend. And again, we can always tell if a scissor's out of alignment because we have a tool. If you don't have a tool, they're not expensive. Get yourself a tool just to be able to look and see. Because you probably have suspicions, well, it doesn't feel right, something's wrong. Well, my hone line doesn't look right, something's wrong. This will tell you what's wrong, and this will tell you where it's wrong in a matter of seconds.
Is there a way, rather than having a flat plate, to having a vent plate? So, you know what I mean? That it would match exactly.
Sure.
Rather than looking for a bow. Is there a way
But you want to look for a bow.
I mean, you have a bowed plate.
Yeah, that's not going to tell you
Having it match.
that's not going to tell you the correct way to check alignment.
Okay.
Okay, and that's a great question. A lot of people think, well, I want to meet that bow.